If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up, tipped, and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the official Colts Podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Welcome into the official Colts Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. JJ Stankevitz, I'm Jeffrey Gorman. No Lara Overton in today, but we do have a lot to get over with. Hey, we're going to talk about some fun stuff at the end of the show. I found out recently about our man right here, JJ Stankevitz, and a couple of off-the-field things that he likes to, have in his back pocket and hopefully surprise some of you listeners. But here we go. We got to start. I don't want to backtrack. We never do that very much on these Tuesday podcasts, but it was pretty one-sided the other day. Just a quick once-over. The turnovers killed. The turnovers killed. You're playing catch-up. That forces a different type of game plan going in when you're looking for points in a hurry.
Yeah, you go back and you look at how that game played out, and it really was the 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
The one where after JT had that big 40-yard gain on the kind of mesh rub route, Gardner goes and throws the interception right after that. It kind of took a lot of wind out of the sails. It was 14-3 at that point. You're thinking maybe you get down there, you get some points before halftime. And really the difference was the Jaguars scored 17 points off turnovers. The Jaguars won the game by 17 points. I think that's kind of the start and end of it. I did think this was interesting. I was listening to Colts Roundtable Live here on the Colts Audio Network driving in today, and Joe Wright's brought up a really good point. The Colts have turned the ball over 8 times this year. 7 of those have come against the Jaguars.
Really? Okay, so it's supposed to have been a turnover machine in 2 games.
For whatever reason, but I think the reason is the Colts haven't been able to get the run game going against the Jaguars. Colts are done playing the Jags this year. Now we'll kind of see, okay, was that a blip? Did the Jaguars just kind of have the Colts number this year, both at Lucas Oil Stadium and at Everbank Field? And is this offense going to get back to being that efficient, taking care of the ball, not turning it over type of offense that we've come to know over the last couple of weeks?
Gardner Minshew starting for the very near future, as far as we can tell, because Anthony Richardson is is one of the reasons that Gardner is getting this kind of playing time, and I love when Gardner comes in relief, starting Anthony Richardson with a different skill set and a different game plan. Gardner comes in, shakes things up a little bit because it's easy, but Gardner as a starting quarterback right now, limited in his skills to Anthony Richardson as far as footwork and things go like that. So it does kind of close that window a little bit for defensive coordinators. When you're facing Richardson, it's one thing. When you're facing Gardner, it's another.
Here's the thing that I've kind of come to learn about this team, and specifically Anthony Richardson, which we can get into in a little bit, is that he really is a guy who elevates the rest of the team. Like, you see that with Anthony Richardson. Even in 4 games, he's only completed 2 of them. You see that ability in him, and that's really exciting for what the future looks like here in Indianapolis, because specifically with the run game, you can't kind of collapse everything into the middle and try to just sell out to stop Zach Moss or Jonathan Taylor, because if you do that, here comes Anthony around the edge. And also, by the way, if you put all those guys in the box, Anthony can throw it deep and take advantage of it. Or if you're playing man behind these plays, Anthony can just take off and run, and if your DBs have their backs to the quarterback, they're not seeing him until he's 10 yards downfield.
Right.
So he really does elevate everyone else on the field in a way that I think, as you're thinking about the next 5-10 years of what this offense can look like, is very exciting.
Obviously, that starts and ends with Anthony Richardson. Need to get into some of the comments that the owner said recently about his health and where we're at. A lot of Colts fans know, and they've been reading on social media and everything. Will he have a chance to come back in a month? Will it be 6 weeks? Who knows? Well, Jim Irsay spoke with Stephen Holder from ESPN and said the most likelihood is he's probably going to be done for the year. It's not definite, but probably misses this year, and we're going to have to contend with that factor. There's debate going, but it's probably going to lead towards surgery in the next week or so. Now, keep in mind this was yesterday when the owner spoke with Holder, so we're in about a week watch now as far as surgery goes, and it's still up in the air. He finished with saying, we're just trying to figure out exactly how, when, and what we want to do. And the most important part of what he said is these last few words, and what Anthony wants to do. because you have to understand surgery, no surgery. Some of the players in the past years in the NFL have had this surgery, come out on the other side. Others said, no, we're just going to let this thing heal by itself. So it's kind of a juggling act right now of what the young man wants to do and his team around him saying, hey, is it going to be surgery? But Irsay did sort of point towards, hey, this surgery is going to happen in the next week. And if that's the case, he's done for the year. JJ, we wanted development out of the first year out of this, but find the good in that, if you could. Find the good in that season-ending potential surgery for Anthony Richardson.
Well, I think it would be that you take care of the problem, and next year he's ready to go. It would suck if this is the way that it goes. And again, the thing in here, nothing's definitive on it yet. We'll kind of hear from Shane Steichen as the week goes on to see if there is a definitive, all right, this is the path forward. But kind of like I was saying, though, I think we've seen a pretty good amount from Anthony that gives you hope for what he can be. And his ability to, read a defense, to diagnose a defense, I think was ahead of where a lot of people thought it would be. His ability to just kind of sit in the pocket, not take sacks. If he does take a sack, he doesn't lose a lot of yards. Maybe ahead of where people thought he would be. And I'm saying people on the outside. People here, I think, always kind of knew what he could be. I think you can still leave this year encouraged by what Anthony has put on tape. Whether he comes back or doesn't come back, we'll kind of see on that. Overall, though, I think the foundation for him, for the reason why the Colts drafted him, which is the next 5-10 years of this franchise, is pretty solid to me.
Unfortunate. The concussion, the lower body injury, now the shoulder and stuff like that through just a handful of games like that. I don't want to cause for red flag. I'm not saying that, but this young man, we've talked about it before, hasn't played a bunch of big time football in his life, meaning, 13 games down in Florida and then just a spattering of NFL starts right there. For the future going forward, protecting yourself. I want to go through the list of gamuts that the experts are talking about, keeping quarterbacks on the field. His skill set, we talked about it earlier. Anthony can go around the outside even when he got a stacked backfield and stuff like that. At 240-plus pounds, JJ, and for the rest of his career, is he going to have to change the way that he plays the game a little bit?
That's probably a better discussion for, next year once he gets healthy and once, when if he were able to come back this year again, we'll kind of see. That's probably a better discussion for later on. Right now, it's probably more about, hey, let's get this kid healthy.
Right.
Let's figure out what the course of action is, what he wants to do, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, he does have that skill set we talked about, and it's tough not to talk about him running the football because he wants to do it so well. So, loss to the Jaguars, we call it a learning experience, lessons to take going forward from that. Joe Wright said it best. You dug that little nugget up, 7 turnovers against the Jaguars in 2 games, 8 total on the year. So they're playing good against everybody else, but the division rivals, come on. Give me some takeaways from that because they obviously tough to run the football against that front, but also tough to run the football when you're playing catch-up.
Yeah, I think the worry thing, the thing here that the Colts are going to need to figure out is the NFL is a copycat league, right? So teams might see, okay, the Jaguars are playing – they're playing heavy personnel no matter who the Colts are running out there. The Colts would spread it with 4 wide. Jaguars would still be in their base personnel with all those guys packed up on the D-line, 4 DBs playing behind it. That's going to be something the Colts are going to have to figure out now with Gardner Minshew back there at quarterback, who doesn't have that same skill set that Anthony has to take it around the edge and run it on zone reads and read options. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what the Colts counter is. I think the one thing that I've come to learn about Shane Steichen is that he's got some other solutions in his toolkit. It's not just, well, we do this and we just have to do this better. I think you can find some different schematic tweaks to get around that are going to be interesting to kind of follow over these next couple of weeks. Because, by the way, the Browns, great defense. The Saints, great defense. These next 2 games at home are going to be big tests for the Colts offense against, to me, 2 of the top 5-10 defenses in the NFL. The Jaguars, by the way, they got a real good defense.
Sure they do.
Over there. They got some dudes. They got a really good defensive coordinator in Mike Caldwell. This is going to be kind of a real interesting test to see where the Colts are before you get into that November stretch, or you get on the plane to Carolina, and then you go face Bill Belichick. This kind of 4-game stretch to me is going to be really telling for what the Colts can be this year, because you got some good defenses in there. You got some good defensive coordinators you're going to go against that Shane Steichen's going to have to match wits against. And we'll kind of see what those solutions might be. The problem that the Colts had against Jacksonville, kind of run it back there, is that they weren't able to pass the Jaguars out of that heavy personnel, those big bodies getting them in there. Gardner Minshew, Ryan Kelly both said this after the game. They needed to kind of hit some of those outside shots to get the Jaguars to back off and say, all right, we got to get that fifth defensive back on the field. That then just lightens up the personnel and allows you to have more opportunities to run the ball. This wasn't a Shane Steichen was unwilling to run the football type of game against Jacksonville. It was for the Colts to establish the run, they had to establish the pass first. That was what this game was going to dictate. And when the Colts were not able to establish the pass early in the game, it led itself to a result where Gardner Minshew threw the ball 55 times because they had to as the game went on, and they were trying to chase a 15, 18, whatever point deficit that it was.
We've seen Minshew in his career go 22 of 25, those 24 of 27 games, 20 of 22 type of stuff like that. That's where this offense would be perfect. My point is, shifting towards the run game with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor, when do these guys get going? And no Anthony Richardson in that threat on the outside, but with Minshew, can they, without playing catch-up, JJ, where can this running game take them over the course of, like you said, facing great defenses, but forcing teams to defend against the run? Because two guys that are playing out of their mind this year running the football right here, Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor, I'm saying we know what Jonathan can bring.
Well, and the Colts offensive line, too, is playing really well. I think that's kind of the hard
Ryan
thing.
Kelly, the best center in the league.
I mean, by Pro Football Focus,
sure,
it's pretty clear.
Allowed 0 sacks on the year, and pressures and everything. Good
if you look at his, I think it's his pass block grade on Pro Football Focus, which take PFF grades for what you will. But if you look at that, he's like 10 points higher than the next highest graded center in pass block grade. But as a run blockers, you look at what he's doing. Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Will Fry's rock solid. Braden Smith's been really good in the run game. Whenever you've had a Blake Freeland or a Wesley French come in, you haven't seen that step back that sometimes you see when reserve offensive linemen come in. I think I'm still pretty confident in this run game. As things stand, the Colts haven't been able to run the ball against the Jaguars this year. They've been able to run the ball against every other team that they've played.
Why is that? Just give me a once-over.
I think it's
they played good teams, Baltimore defense included.
Yeah. I think it's whatever it is about that Jaguars front seven has made it really difficult. The Colts are not the only team that have struggled to run the ball against that Jaguars front seven. The Bills had, I think, 28 rushing yards the week prior. It is not, and that, by the way, was a team with a mobile quarterback and Josh Allen who can hit that edge. So they just kind of do it to everyone. And
now they got to be top 3 defense. I mean, against the run now.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 5 before they played us.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They also got DeJuan Smoot back, who's a big guy in the interior. I don't want to say, I don't want to just chalk it up and just be like, Colts aren't playing the Jaguars again. They'll be fine. You need to see it. The Browns have, to me, top 2 defense in the NFL right now coming into this game. What Jim Schwartz is doing has been incredible. Myles Garrett looks like a DPOY candidate. They're playing some really interesting coverages on the back end. Rodney McLeod, by the way, former Colt,
how about that?
playing really well over there. But to me right now, until I see this Colts run game really struggle against a defense that isn't the Jaguars, I might kind of chalk it up to, it's just the Jaguars are a really good run defense, and they match up well against the Colts personnel.
Elite running back in Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss, he is what he said, grinder, we love him. But how long till JT he can start motoring and get going and be just fluid like we know JT?
Yeah.
No OTAs, no training camp, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like that. He hasn't really practiced much. He's had 5 practices in 2 games since coming off PUP, or since being activated to return from PUP. That's not a ton of time to really get used to it. And I think something that JT will get used to is kind of feeling out the run scheme and feeling out his offensive line. Even in years past, I think about the 2021 season where JT started off that year, and it wasn't like he came out of the gate just 250-yard games. I'm going to pull up his stats here early in that season because it took him a little while to kind of get going. And I think you see this sometimes with running backs where you get new personnel on the offensive line and you're sort of like, okay, like you got to kind of figure it out. Jonathan Taylor's first 2 games of the 2021 season, he had 34 carries for 107 yards.
Nah.
Yeah. And then he went on and had 1,800 yards, led the lead by 500. Like, it took him a little while to kind of get going that season, and that was with a full training camp. But you're just kind of learning that new personnel, kind of learning now a new scheme with Tony Sperano coming in, kind of running that. I wouldn't be shocked if you hit this, week 3, 4, 5 stretch for JT coming back, kind of going into the bye, where you really start to see not only a snap count going up, but that yards per carry average go up.
Yeah, right.
Now you've kind of got a couple games under your belt. Maybe he gets one more game where he gets around 50% of the snaps. He was at, I think it was 40-something% against the Jaguars. And then you start to see now, okay, he's getting comfortable. He's learning how to set up his blocks, in the scheme, I should say. And then you see him really start to take off. And maybe even like if you're thinking about it after that bye week, that could be where you see Jonathan Taylor just go like that, where he's getting there. You hit the bye, come back after that, and then it's just go time.
Focus on the offense?
He could be. He absolutely could be. But, I mean, Zach Moss is still here.
That's what I'm saying. But let me retract that. Running game from here on out with Minshew in at the quarterback position, is that the focus of this?
Well, I think it kind of has to be. Like, Gardner's a really good quarterback when he can kind of sit back there, pick apart a defense with those shorter throws, with quick game, and then not make those mistakes. I don't totally know what happened on some of those mistakes against Jacksonville, where he just kind of sailed some throws. Those are uncharacteristic
a lot of
for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
You don't see him do that very often. And I looked it up. He still has the 6th lowest career interception percentage in NFL history among quarterbacks with 1,000 attempts. Like, it's him at 1.7% with like Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert down there. And on that list, you got Aaron Rodgers, a couple other guys, Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, guys who are really good backups who can step in, not turn the ball over. I think Gardner's probably more in their camp with this. But when he throws 3 picks in a game, you're sort of like, that's not who he is. No. And that's not who he's proven to be over 5 years. So I'm not really worried about that. But absolutely, if you get the run game going, that's where I think you're going to start to see Gardner really thrive in this offense.
I like that Gardner said afterwards, hey, I was crap.
Yeah, right. He took accountability for it.
Guys, hey, this one's on me. We know how that young man is, how he goes in. But from here, he'll say, hey, that was that's kind of a dark spot of what happened. But we do have some bright spots. Shifting the gears a little bit. Rookie, Blake Freeland, starting there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this. Hey, what do we do with the offensive line? What do we do with, Braden Smith? Hey, Bernhard Raimann outside. This kid's flip-flopping and playing good football.
I want to dial it back to, like, the offseason where Chris Ballard didn't make any veteran additions to that offensive line. And a lot of people were like, okay, first of all, why didn't you go get a starting, right guard or a tackle to compete with Bernhard Raimann? Well, Bernhard Raimann's playing like one of the best left tackles in the NFL.
Wow.
I know he had the sack, where Allen got him around the edge, but that was the first sack he's given up all year. If you turn on the tape, he's looking really good. Will Fries, I talked about it on the pod last week, just like rock solid in there. Not a liability, not even like he's playing poorly. He is playing just solid football at right guard. That's exactly what you need out of that spot. And then the depth, okay, so you didn't go out and go get, a veteran swing tackle. Well, Blake Freeland's playing like a pretty good swing tackle
right now,
as a rookie. And when the Colts drafted him in the 4th round, it was, this guy's going to be our swing tackle this year. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. He did both at BYU. Yeah, he doesn't have experience, but we trust him. And so far, I think, he had a couple pressures he gave up to Aaron Donald, which will happen to anybody. And outside of that, like I was talking about this with Rick Venturi on the bus coming from the airport in Jacksonville. And he's just like, Blake's playing really good football. And for a backup to come in as a rookie and to step in and start on both the left and the right side now and to play solid football where it's not like you think about, he's not like a turnstile out there. And sometimes when you bring in these backups, it's just like they're getting picked on all the time and they can't block anyone and it becomes a liability. That is not Blake Freeland at all. for this offensive line. That wasn't what Wesley French was when he stepped in for Ryan Kelly for 2 games as well. That's a really good sign that it's not just Tony Sperano Jr. coaching up those 5 guys, the 5 starters. He's getting good play out of guys who are making their NFL debuts in Blake Freeland and Wesley French. You should feel pretty good about where that team is going, group of offensive linemen as a whole.
I'm going to ask a greedy question. You said swing. He swung from the left side to the right side, swing tackle. Can he move inside and be a true swing guy?
He never played that at BYU. But, I mean, look, the more you can do as a backup, maybe you trust him there.
Right.
I think that, we haven't seen the Colts need a someone to step in at guard this year. That would probably be Josh Sills, who the Colts picked up on waivers from the Eagles on a roster cutdown day. Mm-hmm. He'd probably be the guy to step in there. That might be maybe throwing a little too much on Blake's plate, but he's really athletic. He's got good feel for the position. Maybe that's something in the future for him.
Offensive line is playing well. Way to go, Ryman. Way to go, Blake Freeland. Another youngster that's on this roster playing well. Juju Brent's got to tip the hat. First career interception. Yeah. Hopefully now they come in buckets for the young man.
He plays so physical out there. Like, you can just...
Bro, he's a house, though. I mean, I want to say this before you go on with this thing. He's so big as a corner like that. Like, you sit to him next in the locker room or when he has pads on, it's ridiculous. I mean, he's like, it almost seems like he's 6'6" playing. He's not, but he looks so big with the reach and everything that he has. What a huge body he has playing this position.
You know what's funny watching him is, like, cornerbacks, when they, force an incompletion, they kind of do like this. Like, for our audio listeners, I'm doing the thing where you,
like a safe sign for a baseball umpire.
Yeah. And Juju, it's like unfurling, like, wings of a jumbo jet. Right. It's like, oh, man. Like, it's almost like, I'm sure the guys on the field know, like, man, this guy's got really long arms. But you see that, and it's like, good Lord, this guy's got a 90-inch wingspan.
You can grab the headphones off the coordinator on the sideline. I mean, no, you're right. Just a huge span and everything. But hopefully these things come in buckets. And he's one of those corners that we have here for about 10 years. Yeah. That's just saying, hey, it's shutdown time. The hometown kid playing well.
I think the thing with him that you kind of looked at when he was coming out was he didn't necessarily have the speed that you sometimes see top end corners have. But the Colts felt like because of his length that he could make up for it. That he wasn't going to get beat over the top, because it is kind of a different calculus when you might have a corner who's 6'1" with a 75-inch wingspan who's got really good speed, but you can dump it over the top of that guy because his arms can't reach there and he doesn't have the height. With Juju, maybe he's got 4.5 speed, I think is what he ran at the combine, but he's got an 80-something inch wingspan and he's 6'3". So it's a different trajectory that ball's got to be on, because Juju can just use his length to go knock that ball down. And then his physicality at the line, like, he's able in press coverage to get his hands on the receiver and to reroute that receiver pretty well. And he's still learning, but I think you see what he's doing out there on a play-to-play basis, and you feel really good about his upside. You love getting that first pick out of the way, and just, okay, hey, now you're not pressing for that as a rookie. Go out there and keep doing it, keep playing the way you are. And by the way, in the run game, he sticks his nose in there.
Yeah.
He had 7 tackles the other day. There was one where Etienne, got on the outside, and some corners he probably would have beat, and Juju just grabbed him, dropped him to the ground like it was nothing.
I love it.
Really cool to see.
Got to keep that going. Offensive side of the ball, we talked about Blake Freeland, rather. Juju having a great one. Josh Downs just continuously being a best friend for the quarterback here in Indianapolis. And whether it's Anthony Richardson or Minshew, this young man's saying, hey, I need to be on the field.
Yeah, especially with, he fits kind of that. If you're going to go a lot of quicker throws like Gardner is going to do, Josh Downs is going to get himself open. And he's going to get himself open quickly within his routes, on time. A guy who, look, depending on how long Gardner starts, I wouldn't be shocked if he led the Colts in receptions this year. Just because he's that guy who, we saw it in training camp. Gardner was just peppering him with throws over and over and over again. And we asked Gardner, hey, why are you throwing to Downs so much? He's like, because he's open. And Downs is going to keep getting open. The Colts are going to keep finding ways to use him in this offense. And again, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he led this team in receptions. What's he at right now?
Fantasy players, are you listening?
Well, look, I think a lot of people in their leagues, I've noticed this, like, like my wife's in a league with a bunch of her friends, and she's like, man, like someone just picked up Josh Downs, and she was like, where was my heads up on that? And I was like, yeah, sorry, I probably should have told you.
Boy, that is on you, JJ. That's sacrilegious right there.
Look, I'm just trying to keep an even playing field for, I'm not in that league. So Michael Pittman right now, he leads the team with 40 receptions. Josh has 28. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know. Pittman probably leads his team in receptions.
But Josh Downs, yeah.
Josh could be, he could be right there. He could absolutely be right there in that mix. Just because I think on a week-to-week basis, you're going to get 4 or 5 catches out of him baseline. And you could have some weeks where he gets 10, some weeks where he gets 5, some weeks where he gets 8. I think just like he'll be in that 5 to 10 range almost every week.
I think it's going to be Reggie Wayne's sort of project. Not project, he's got a lot of them in that room, but one that's a favorite of his, if you will, is watching him be a better player, because he's, you've talked to Reggie starting at training camp about how excited they are to have Josh Downs in. And now it's starting to come, almost a 100-yard day, for the first time in his career. So those things are going to be rolling downhill. JJ Stankevitz, I'm Jeffrey Gorman. This is the official Colts podcast brought to you by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. I got a couple of random questions coming your way. The trade deadline coming up, where we're at with this season. Obviously, our big gun down for a little bit. What happens across the NFL with teams that are in that mid-level thing? Hey, we're treading water at 3-3 right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you're probably you still kind of have to take the long-term view of this whole project. Of you got one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. Mm-hmm. You got a quarterback in Anthony Richardson who you want to keep building around. Does that lend itself to an aggressive win now? We're going after it move. Like, you think about the teams that might do that at the trade deadline, you're trying to plug a hole on your roster, and you're like, we have a championship level roster. We just need to go get this one thing. Maybe it's, you go get another edge rusher, or you go get a third wide receiver or something like that. I don't necessarily know if that's where the Colts are. We haven't really seen that be a thing that Chris Ballard has done here. But by the way, Chris Ballard made one of the moves at the deadline last year going to get Zach Moss.
Sure.
He's kind of an afterthought in the whole Nyheim Hines trade, but turned out they got a pretty good player out of that. Those draft picks are going to be valuable that you would have to burn to go get someone, but I wouldn't put it past this team if the right guy becomes available who this team likes to go consider it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think Chris Ballard's someone who's always said your roster is never done being constructed. There are always ways to improve it, whether that's through bringing guys in to your practice squad who you bring up to your active roster, you sign a free agent off the street, you make a trade. There are always different ways you can upgrade your roster throughout the season, and I think the Colts have shown they are always going to try to find that way. Again, I'm not sitting here saying Colts are going to go out and trade for whoever, but it's something that I'm sure Chris Ballard and Ed Dodds and those guys are always constantly talking through.
Follow him on Twitter or Twitter X, I call it, or
who cares? Whatever it is.
Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Follow him at JJ Stankevitz. Okay. This thing right here, people are
look at
talking
that.
about this beauty right here. Colts are going to be wearing this thing, and I think it's the first time in their, since they've been in operations that they've ever worn
first black helmet.
A black helmet. And
yeah.
Tell me about this game against Cleveland that's coming up and what the Colts are going to look like.
So they're going to be in this black helmet, which for our viewers on YouTube, you can see it right here. We have a jersey over there. I didn't actually go get it. You want me to go get the jersey?
Yeah, get it.
All right, let's do this. This is great for our audio listeners.
Absolutely. Here's where we go. He's got the jersey. Oh, wow, look at that. Now, YouTube watchers, you
check
can
this.
see.
This is the jersey right here. You can see. It's got this pretty cool heather pattern on it, which
what pattern?
It's called heather pattern.
On the blue, right?
Yeah,
okay.
First in NFL history with the heather. So it's kind of a little,
It's tough to see because the camera's so far away, but yeah, there is definitely a different sort of blue on that.
Yeah.
But it looks not meshy, but what's the word I'm looking for? Heather?
I would say texture.
Texture.
Yeah.
I don't know heather.
Yeah,
but,
and then you got you got your black outline on the numbers here. So yeah, pretty cool.
Good ducks.
Pretty cool jersey.
That's happening.
First time that the Colts are going to wear the black helmet, like you said, Jeffrey. And I don't know. I think it looks pretty nice.
Find some swag on Colts.com and Colts Pro Shop.
There you go. That's a plug right there.
I'm just saying it's
that's
there
a plug.
if you want it. And don't forget.
Speaking of plugs, by the way, this Gatorade Fast Twitch is delicious.
You like that,
I love this stuff. It's like jet fuel.
If you're
I love
listening, get on board with JJ Stankevitz. Don't forget Inside Football with Rick Venturi will be out on Wednesdays, giving you the blueprints for the Colts to beat the Browns in Week 7. Another episode of the Colts official podcast will land Thursday. Matt Taylor, Casey Valier, Bill Brooks, and a TBD player to be determined. They will have one sitting on the couch joining the pod and looking ahead to Sunday's game.
We give the player the chair, by the way.
Do you do?
Yeah.
What are you guys, 3 up on that thing?
No. We usually, I think it's usually Casey who bounces out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gives up the chair to the player.
It'd be great if you had 3 people and 1 in there. That's what I want next time. Can we get more people in so I can have a true panel right there on the couch?
We'll work on it.
You guys on the couch.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Yeah, we got a lot of YouTube comments about stop talking about the couch, and here we are talking about the couch.
Hey, don't forget Instant Reaction with this guy right here and Bill Brooks, Colts Ring of Honor member. They give you the immediate instant reaction recapping the Colts and the Browns. That's right after the whistle blows. You guys get to work and get down on that. So
hey, what was the thing you were going to throw at me at the end here?
Well, the thing I was going to throw at you at the end is Cleveland is home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So music is a big thing. I'm trying to think of Cleveland. I've been there a few times. I remember, there's some stuff to do. There's some nice lakes and stuff around that area of Hawaii.
Hawaii. Wow. Yeah. People often confuse Cleveland for being in Hawaii.
But we have found out that, and I do some research on you just to give our listeners and our viewers just a little insight into you because you're a wealth of knowledge here. But you were in, if this is correct, you were in the jazz ensemble at Missouri when you were in college.
That is incorrect.
You were in a jazz club.
That is incorrect. You're trying to put me in a kayak in alligator-infested waters last week. You're putting me in the jazz club this week.
You were in an ensemble, a jazz ensemble.
That is incorrect.
Well, I know you've had ivory. You've tickled the ivory young in your career, and I thought that went into something.
No.
That's true. You were a piano player,
all right.
JJ.
Yeah, you got me on that.
Before you went in the NFL, you did tickle the ivories, and you missed Super Bowls because you had gigs.
That's correct. We were talking about this, and I have not let my parents live it down.
Okay.
That I grew up, they had me in piano lessons from first grade to, 6th grade. And my piano teacher, Mrs. Wright, she always had recitals on Super Bowl Sunday.
Sounds like Mrs.
And
Wrong.
Got him.
Come on.
And they were always at 5 o'clock. What time does the Super Bowl kick off on Central Time? 5:15. Yeah. I missed multiple Super Bowls for piano recitals. And I told my parents, I got to quit. I got to quit piano. I'm missing the Super Bowl. And I remember my mom being like, well, you might regret quitting piano someday. And I don't because I work in the NFL now, covering football. So I never let my parents live that one down, that I was doing piano recitals. I missed that great Titans-Rams Super Bowl.
Because you were tickling ivories.
Poorly.
You put out any albums? Anything on Apple Music we can listen to that you've done?
No. I don't know what that would sound like, but no one wants to hear that.
I just try. I put you in situations sometimes that I make you dig out a little bit. But hey, it's true. You're a musician at heart.
No.
Yeah, you did. You had 6 years of piano lessons. That's
okay.
Musician.
You know what I can do though. Those little. So we had the little toy pianos for my kids and stuff. I learned how to play on one of them, like When the Saints Go Marching In and Jingle Bells.
Okay.
Just on these tiny little baby toys when my kids were not even a year old. I would just be messing around on that.
Brother. Keep it up.
I do. Okay, you're right. I do have it in me.
I'm gonna bring it on the show. The people want to hear. So hey, any closing thoughts we got from you? Because JJ's you'll read on JJ at Colts.com. Follow him on Twitter X at JJ Stankevitz. It's a big game. It's another big game. The playoff hopes are still alive here and stuff. Closing thoughts facing these Browns coming up.
It's good defense. Jim Schwartz, by the way, has been doing this for a long time. I was reading about this. The way that he lines up the D ends in that wide 9, where the ends are way outside of the tackles. You know where that started?
Where?
When he was with the Titans, he got sick of Edgerrin James running the ball on him so much that he figured out a way to try to stop Edge from getting to the edge, if you will.
So he threw him outside even farther.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then crashing down.
Yep.
Edgerrin's still in the mix.
Yep.
I love it. He changed defenses. Schwartz is a good one. This is going to be a tough one. Appreciate the time of you today. What's going on? We do face an uphill battle after that loss in Jacksonville, dropping 2 to the Jags. But somehow, some way, man, this funky league, we get on a streak, we start hitting stuff, people start losing. You never know what happens with Anthony Richardson or without. So fingers crossed, but this is a big one. We got to get these next 2. And like you said, facing 2 great defenses, Cleveland, New Orleans.
3-3 with 11 games to go. There's still a whole season's ahead of this team.
Let's go. Well done. Hey, thank you for your musical input today. Appreciate your football input as well. Again, we are brought to you by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. JJ Stankevitz. Find out more, any information, the latest and greatest, what you need, go to Colts.com. And again, a big thanks to our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. I'm Jeffrey Gorman, and for JJ Stankevitz, thanks, Sherry, behind the camera, and we will talk to you guys next week.